Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. So yesterday, as if he doesn't have enough to do, JJ Abrams decided to tease everybody with this kind of short black and white film, and he didn't say anything what it was about. He just put it out there. And I guess he was taking advantage of the fact that it's a very slow month for movie news and any kind of entertainment news. So I think he thought, oh, well, this is perfect. I'll just get everybody buzzing about this short. I have to say, I was surprised at the lack of buzz it really generated. I think maybe JJ Abrams should take note from that and kind of think of maybe he's like overextending himself. And also, maybe he's becoming more of the man than the maverick. I mean, he's so entrenched in Hollywood at this point with the Star Trek franchise, the Mission Impossible franchise, and now Star Wars. I don't think he really has quite the same, newbie, working from the outside in, image that he started out with when he was jumping over from his earlier television work into film. That said, I'll play JJ. There really is nothing going on, so let's talk about your teaser. I think it's for television. What I think gives that away is the production values. They seem very TV. I think, if that was for a film, it would be a very low-budget movie. Some people were wondering if it had anything to do with Star Wars or anything. I don't think so. Also, it clearly has some kind of horror bent at the end with that guy's mouth sewn shut. But good luck venturing into horror. I think it's covered so well right now by Blumhouse in theaters and by Ryan Murphy on television with American Horror Story that you really have to step up your game if you're going to compete with either one of those. The other reason I think it's television is that I would bet, not a lot of money, but I would bet a solid money, like $20 maybe, that is Bill Atherton at the end. You might recall Bill Atherton. He, for a while, made his living playing the token villain or jerk in movies. He was in Die Hard. He was the reporter. He was also in Ghostbusters as another, I think he was a reporter or he worked for the city. But he's a cool guy. He's a good actor. He's very good at playing the jerk, thus his career. And he faded away for a while, but I think, it's kind of popular right now to find that nostalgia actor that everybody liked and kind of bring them back. That's something that Christopher Nolan did, Tom Berenger and, Matthew Modine. So to kind of stick Atherton in there and say, well, your mouth has to be sewn shut, but hey, Atherton, it is a paycheck. So I'm not 100% sure it's him, but when I looked at the picture and he came up, I was like, oh, hey, look, Bill Atherton. That was my gut initial reaction. So what do you think of this JJ Abrams teaser? Are you compelled at it? Are you compelled to find out more? Does it seem like something you want to watch? And do you think that it was enough of a teaser, or do you think it was maybe thrown together to take advantage of August, that nothing's going on? So I put a link below to the teaser if you haven't seen it. So that's the first story of the day. The second story of the day is that Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, is still continuing to try very hard to get Woody Allen to shoot a movie there. They said they've been trying since he started his, quote-unquote European tour. That European tour might be over now because Blue Jasmine took place in San Francisco. But, of course, Woody Allen was famous for making his films in New York City. And then he kind of found a new wave of interest, I guess is the right term, or he got a new rush of creativity and interest in his movies when he started going to Europe. Vicky Cristina Barcelona was obviously in Barcelona in Spain. Then he did Match Point in London, Midnight in Paris. That's not my favorite of the films, actually. I really liked that movie. It's an excellent Paris travelogue. If you're thinking of going to Paris, rent that movie. That's a good representation of what your trip will be like. Then he also did, but interestingly, then he did When in Rome, which was one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and kind of put me off the whole Woody Allen European tour, and maybe he knows that. But anyway, they really want him to come to Rio de Janeiro and shoot a movie there. And so much so that just the other day, the mayor offered publicly to pay for the film totally with government funds. Woody Allen movies are not particularly expensive, so I guess that's doable. It's not like he's offering to give, a large chunk of their gross GNP, gross national profit, to pay for this movie. But I think Woody Allen should consider it. I mean, first of all, it's so wonderful to have a city want you so much. I don't think Woody Allen should have them pay for the entirety of the film, I think, because even as the mayor pointed out, a lot of local artists would probably be upset. And you don't need, Woody Allen certainly doesn't need anybody else's money to that degree. I think, people are willing to invest in a Woody Allen film. Although I did have a teacher in film school who used to work, I think, for TriStar, and she said that Woody Allen movies have never, ever turned a profit, at least in theatrically. And they just made them because they were Woody Allen movies, and they had prestige, and they, won awards sometimes. So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, so that's with Woody Allen. I think he should do it. Latin American audiences are really have a lot of purchase power, not quite up to the level of Asia yet, but even here in the United States, Latino audiences are really a big draw. They're a very strong demographic, and I think it would be a nice crossover thing for Woody to do, and I think he should seriously consider it. Also, I thought it was also funny that they said they'd even gotten a free plane ticket to him to come and visit the city to scout locations and consider it. So I think that was charming and endearing, and it just goes to show how hard cities are working to get attention for them through film. You know, New York is a very aggressive film and television incentives program, and it pays off. I mean, literally, not only literally for the city, but it also creates jobs and tourism. So you can't blame Rio for trying, and I hope Woody's listening. All right, the third story of the day kind of spins off of yesterday's movie math and talking about how Paranoia debuted outside of the top 10 and number 13. Well, as a result, come Monday morning, Terry Curtin was the name. Yes, Terry Curtin was out at Relativity Media, fired from marketing, no longer head of publicity. And two people were brought in to try and fix this mess. And they brought in Russell Schwartz, who used to be who did publicity for New Line, so that means he marketed the Lord of the Rings films, according to his resume, Rush Hour, Wedding Crashers, Elf, and then this is the big one, they brought in Dana Precious, who used to be doing publicity at Marvel, and she worked on Thor and Captain America. So that's obviously a huge get. Although I have to wonder how much she worked on those films if she's still available. I mean, I don't know why Marvel would switch horses like that considering the success they're having. But maybe she got downsized when Disney bought them. Who knows? I think that, you never know what's going on behind the scenes, but those are certainly two impressive resumes for Relativity Media. To some degree, you have to wonder what they're doing at Relativity Media. Relativity Media has a lot of, they're in the news a lot because of Ryan Kavanaugh. They're the founder, and he's an investor. He had a big problem when he started making movies, because he used to just fund movies through Universal, and then of course he really ticked off Universal when he did Mirror Mirror to compete with their Snow White and the Huntsman, and they're like, you're our money guy, and now you're competing with us, taking money from us. And then there was also a lot of speculation last year that he might lose his company because investors were unhappy with the way it was being run. But he's still there. He's a fighter. He's a survivor, and he's still, he's not quitting. He's just restructuring his publicity department. Is publicity totally to blame for Paranoia? I think that when someone in the comment section in the article I saw covering this said when a movie fails so badly, everything comes into account, especially marketing. And I would have to agree with that. There's no good reason for in this movie market when there isn't a lot of competition, and movies are able to do pretty well. It's not like everything in the top 10 has 10 million or plus. There's single digits in there. To have a movie like Paranoia that stars Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman open outside of the top 10 is just a horrible disaster. And it reminds me of when they fired the Disney publicity woman after John Carter. And, I think she deserved to be fired too. John Carter was a horribly marketed film. And so marketing is very important. I think that it's not always to blame. Obviously, I think as I reviewed with Paranoia, I thought that the script was really by the numbers and overwritten. So I think, someone actually asked me, that was one of the questions yesterday, who's to blame when a movie flops? And, it obviously varies from movie to movie. But I think right now, the people that I would blame the most in Hollywood, who I think deserve the most scrutiny, are the marketing departments, because they'll often go to a movie and be like, that's nothing like what I was promised, either in a good way or a bad way sometimes. But also, I think the people who are choosing the scripts. I talk about this all the time. I think quality is really suffering in Hollywood. I think they're really taking the audience for granted. We talked about this yesterday with piracy and why so many people are pirating films because they just don't feel the quality is there. They don't feel they're getting their money's worth, so why put the money on the table? So that's really who I think is to blame right now. And that segues into the other question I wanted to answer today from I Want 007. Who doesn't want I-007? He or she asked, Grace, do you think Hollywood in general is overpaid, such as actors, directors, producers, and studios? And I would argue a resounding yes. First, there are obviously exceptions. I think Robert Downey Jr. is worth whatever sum of money they're paying him for Avengers 2 and 3. But you know what? I would argue also that he earned that money by, he worked very hard to create Iron Man, to promote those movies. He goes to the Friday night and midnight showings to say hi to the audience. He goes to all the premieres. He flies all over the country. I think Robert Downey Jr. really, really is invested in that character. And when he plays Iron Man, and he is in the business of being Iron Man. I guess that's what I would say. Robert Downey Jr. just doesn't act like Iron Man. He has made it a business, and he deserves to be paid. I would also say Harrison Ford earned his money that he got off of Indiana Jones. Jones 4, because that was back end, and his $60 million came out of points. And the movie made so much money that he was able to get that. And Leonardo DiCaprio also made a ton of money off of Titanic, because to keep costs down, he got points. And he was a young actor, and they were spending obviously so much money on special effects, and he deserves that money. That said, though, I read time and time again about ridiculous paydays that studios pay out to talent, largely because of packaging, where what happens is, because everyone's a free agent, the talent agencies represent people in every category, not just actors, but directors and writers, and they will often come to a studio with a project that is pre-packaged, and the salaries are kind of like part and parcel with that. And I really wish that the studios would push back, and I feel most actors should work for back end. I think obviously if you bring an audience like Denzel Washington is a consistent, solid performer, you should get like a base salary, not the extravagant numbers that are being thrown around now. I see people getting $20 million paydays who are totally not worth it. Although in today's climate, I will add that a lot of people are taking pay cuts. A lot of actors are taking pay cuts. But for instance, as Mark Wahlberg pointed out, why on earth did Lone Ranger, about two guys on a horse, cost $250 million to make? That's ridiculous. You know a lot of it's going to Johnny Depp's pocket. And Johnny Depp recently turned down a movie because he felt he wasn't being offered enough money, which I think was an unfortunate situation to get out there. And also, of course, what happened with Bruce Willis, who wouldn't take $3 million for 4 days of work on Expendables 3. He wanted $1 million a day. So I think that, maybe because maybe talent knows that the quality is lacking, so they want to make sure they get their money up front. But I think that people would deliver better product across the board and be, more bold about speaking up about the lack of quality in the products they're working on if they knew that their paycheck was directly related to how audiences accepted the material. I'm a big fan of getting paid what you're worth. I'm a big fan of putting your money where your mouth is. And I really do agree with I Want 007. People are being overpaid. It needs to stop. I'm not saying people shouldn't be paid what they're worth, but that's certainly not the case right now. So that's today's morning movie news. I hope you enjoyed it. What do you think it's going to take to kind of wake up the news cycle? I think it kind of like got sleepy all of a sudden. That's the feeling I'm getting this week. I think everybody just went crazy on a sugar high or a rumor high, and now everyone's just kind of like, oh, you know what? Let's just wait for a big story. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe somebody will take it. Maybe besides JJ Abrams will come in here and grab a bigger headline in a better, bolder way. So write your thoughts down below, any questions you might have for tomorrow, and I hope you'll check out these other videos. Bye.